देवते नमो नमः। वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी
Jai. Now we offer our respect to grace, all the we are just like desire trees, able to fulfill the desires of everyone. Your ocean of compassion for fallen conditions. Oh, vamos chegar ao canto do chá, bem facinho do meio da chá. Aqui tá não fala de mil, vai ser de mil, não. Nice bite, nice feeling. I love it. I love it.
Milk isn't your friend.
Not at all.
Right. I mean, not when you're older, maybe, right? When you were younger, it was okay, but now it's... Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is. With saffron, a little sugar. Cardamom, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Morning. I don't need water. It's okay. I don't think so. I'm going to have a mint. You can do. Yeah, just...
No problem. Woman is not here.
Yeah, you like my...
Woman is not here. Okay.
Yeah, right. I'm supposed to. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yeah. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayorada Madhava Kunja Bihari. Thanks, Mata. Jayorada Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Astotara Arvikacharya His Divine Grace Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Gangamai Ki Jai. Shri Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Lord Nityananda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from the 10th canto, chapter 63, text 33. Bahushu chidyamaneshu Banasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavrajya Chakrayudham Abhashyata Bahushu Chidmananeshu Banasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavrajya Chakrayudham bhabhashata Bahushu chidyamaneshu Panasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavraja Chakrayudham abhashata Bahushu chidyamaneshu Panasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavraja Chakrayudham habhashata Bahushu chidyamaneshu Vanasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavraja Chakrayudham habhashata Bahushu chidyamaneshu Panasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavraja Chakrayudham habhashata Bahushu chidyamaneshu Panasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavraja Chakrayudham habhashata Bahushu chidyamaneshu Vanasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavraja Chakrayudham habhashata Bahushu chidyamaneshu Vanasya Bhagavan Bhava Bhaktana Kampyupavraja Chakrayudham habhashata Bahushu the arms Chidyamaneshu as they were being severed Banasha of Banasura Bhagavan Bhava the great Lord Shiva Bhakta toward his devotee Anukampi compassionate Upavrajya approaching Chakra Adhutam to Lord Krishna, wielder of the disc weapon. Habhashata, he spoke. Translation. Lord Shiva felt compassion for his devotee Banasura, whose arms were being cut off, and thus he approached Lord Chakrayudha, Krishna, and spoke to him as follows. Please repeat. Lord Shiva felt compassion for his devotee Banasura, whose arms were being cut off, and thus he approached Lord Chakrayudha, Krishna, and spoke to him as follows. There's no purport by the servants of Srila Prabhupada, the BBT, but there are 2 tikas by the Acharyas, so I will read those. By Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Should not Shiva be ashamed to come forward and praise that person with whom he had fought? No, because Shiva is Bhagavan, omniscient. He knew that it was not at all astonishing to be bewildered by the Maya of Krishna who was superior to himself as well as Brahma and others. Therefore, why should he be embarrassed in front of his Lord, Swayam Bhagavan? And Jiva Goswami writes, though Shiva had great power and knowledge, Bhagavan, he approached Krishna, taking shelter of him in surrender. But Shiva should ignore such a great offender. Shiva had great compassion for his followers. He actually fought with Krishna to show the Lord's glories. Shiva offers respects to get relief for his offense to the omniscient Lord, but now it was proper that he made effort to remove the offense of his devotee, even though it had begun previously. Krishna is the wielder of the chakra. After cutting off his arms, Shiva had fear that the chakra would also kill Bana. Though Shiva should have praised Krishna, he merely spoke to him since he could not utter praises, being only able to describe the Lord's form. He had been afflicted by yawning previously, but now he had recovered. Om Jnana Tiramanda Shagyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Udminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya Bhutale Srimati Bir Krishna Das Goswaminiti Namine Namo Hamsa Nikashaya Prabhupada Priyayate Sudrida Suri Nistyam Vyamta Shabhakti Nivadine. Good morning. Talking about this pastime, which is just has had so many twists and turns in this whole Banasura episode of the, first it was kind of pleasant, the whole dreamy scene of Aniruddha and Usha, and how that unfolded. But now we're seeing a whole different side of everything, and we can understand that this was all due to the Lord's desire, or actually it was due to Banasura's desire to have a good fight. Everything went down because of him wanting a good fight, because he had these 1,000 arms, and he was really puffed up, he was real big demon with 1,000 arms. So I know if I had 1,000 arms, I'd probably be very puffed up, because I could do a lot more than I'm doing now. I could do it all, I wouldn't need anybody. I could do it all. I could just keep going and going and going. But Banasura, he was a demon, so he had a little bit different of an agenda. And in the last verse, which was read, Krishna was cutting down his pride. He called for his Sudarshan chakra weapon and started cutting off all of the arms, just as one trims a tree limbs off of a tree, just very easily. Foom, 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 foom. And, Lord Shiva, meanwhile, who was very kindly disposed to Banasura, he had served him once when he was doing one of his dances, and Banasura played the drums for him. So Lord Shiva, and of course Banasura was a devotee of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is Ashutosh. He's easily pleased and he's easily angered. So he was pleased by Banasura, and now he's feeling like, he sees him getting his arms cut off, and we all know what else Krishna's done with his Sudarshan chakra, mainly with Shishupal, off with the head. So, he was a little afraid that Bana was going to meet with the same fate. So he stepped in, and we'll hear all the prayers of Lord Shiva in the upcoming verses, all the beautiful prayers, similar to how we heard of the Shiva Dwara. And now that was sort of the intro to Lord Shiva's prayers to Krishna. And so Lord Shiva, it's said here that, it's talking about, the Acharyas are talking about, should not Shiva be ashamed? This whole, as many Bhagavatam verses and stories and things we hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a focus on the pride, pride and compassion. And I was thinking how pride and compassion are basically diametrically opposed. you know. Those who have a lot of pride, if anybody has met any of those sorts of persons, pride comes before a fall, but pride also excludes compassion, which might help even their own selves to divest of that pride. And a lot of times if persons are compassionate, such as in this case of Lord Shiva, you know, they're not really concerned with pride. They don't have that false ego. They're not concerned with going out of their way to, you know, in this case, talk to Lord Shiva, with whom he had just been previously fighting, you know, just a little while ago. He had been fighting with him. But he was fighting with him for a reason, not because he really wanted to fight with him. You know, he was protecting his devotee because of his compassion, and he was also showing the potency and the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of whom Shiva, that's Shiva's most worshipable Lord. That's who he sings his glories, sings his praises, that's his devotee. Lord Shiva is Krishna's greatest, he's the greatest Vaishnava, he's the greatest devotee. And I was thinking more about Lord Shiva. You know, he's had a few, and I was actually rereading some of Lord Shiva's pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam that we've heard about. And the one that stands out really clearly is that time that Lord Shiva asked Krishna to see this form that had bewildered the demons. You know, he wanted to see the form of Mohini. And you know, rereading that pastime in this context about the compassion and the pridelessness of Lord Shiva. I mean, how can Lord Shiva be very puffed up, actually? His associates are ghosts and hobgoblins and all sorts of abominable, deplorable types. You know, he's compassionate even to them. He's compassionate to everyone and everything in any form. He's very compassionate. So that time that he asked Krishna about seeing that form, you know, Krishna kind of came to him and he kind of told him, he warned him that, yeah, okay, I'll manifest this form for you, because this is his devotee, that is most wonderful and may even bewilder you. And Lord Shiva was riding around on his bull with his wife, Uma, at the time. And then the Lord sort of, you know, disappeared. He disappeared, and then he assumed that form. And the setting, bless you, the setting is a very nondescript part of the forest. And, you know, when Lord Shiva was looking for Krishna to manifest this form, he just happened to be riding through this forest with his wife and saw this form of the Lord. And, you know, I won't go into the full description, but suffice to say, he saw the form, he was intrigued, but then, you know, moments later, as the whole thing developed, the whole situation developed, you know, Mohini was playing with a ball, and, you know, just very, I mean, it's Krishna himself, very unbelievably beautiful. And Lord Shiva just lost, you know, he kind of took leave of his senses for a little while, seeing this divine form of Krishna. Even to the point where he followed her around, he was chasing her. He was actually chasing her all over the world. He was chasing this form, this beautiful form, and even spilled his semen. You know, Lord Shiva is Dhira. He's the most sober. He's the most sober. So for him to go that far was quite extraordinary. And even at that point, he caught himself. And, he could be super embarrassed, just like here. He could be really embarrassed or go away in shame or, not acknowledge. But he thanked the Lord. He thanked the Lord for actually, and, surrendered everything again, that this is the process of surrender. Sometimes you things run away. Your mind runs away. Situation gets out of hand. And, sometimes I've seen where individuals, if the situation gets out of hand, and then they catch themselves, they realize it got out of hand, they're too embarrassed to admit that they were wrong, or that they should have done things differently, or that they, had taken leave of their senses. Who's going to admit that? It's very difficult to do. But Shiva actually admitted that to the Lord and begged the Lord, and acknowledged, okay, I realize that your potency is far greater than I could have even imagined, than I even realized, than I was expecting. And then he sort of took leave of his senses for a short time, but then came back and recovered. And this is happening here, with this pastime. Banasura is getting his comeuppance, but Shiva's afraid it'll go too far. And, of course we see that it doesn't. Krishna keeps his promises to his devotees. But just another thing that was the bewilderment, and also the fact that even though he is being referred to here as Bhagavan, you don't hear that term placed on generally anybody except for Krishna. But Bhagavan means omniscient, and Lord Shiva, he's a very special personality. He has, I think he has 8 less than 64 qualities of, is that what it is, than Krishna? So he doesn't have quite all of the qualities of Krishna. He has a little bit less, but nonetheless, he's extremely, extremely powerful personality, and he's Bhagavan. He's omniscient. So he wasn't embarrassed. He actually revealed himself to Krishna, and we'll hear that he's thanking Krishna. He's actually appreciating the correction and the modification of this personality who's kind of under his care. And I was thinking about how a lot of times, parents, particularly, you hear about this, their child can do no wrong. They have Padma Lochana. They're not able to deviate. They can't believe when their son has murdered somebody. They can't believe it. Oh my! You hear that all the time. Oh, he's such a good boy. I don't know what happened. I can't believe it. They just can't believe it. But Shiva, he can believe it. He knows who he has under him. He knows that these personalities are not exactly on the side of the mode of goodness, I would say, Lord Shiva. So he's able to reel back and understand that, okay, this isn't right, and then he will use that as an opportunity to glorify the Lord, further. Fighting with him was glorification, because, of course, he's no match for Krishna, and even his great, powerful warrior son, Kartikeya, who is known very well as he's a Maharakya, he's, a great warrior. He was horribly injured and had to retreat on his, his peacock carrier. Even he was no match. No one is any match for Krishna, And ultimately, Banasura got what he wanted. This is exactly what he wanted. And I was thinking about that point as well, because sometimes, in this case, Banasura wanted a good fight. And who else is going to get that fight from except Krishna, which Lord Shiva sort of benedicted him with. But how many times I know I myself have, thought about, oh, wouldn't it be great if whatever, or, oh, I'll pray for that, or I'll pray for this person to do this or do that. or pray for this instance, and then Krishna's so kind. He actually will make it happen, even though it's like unbelievable that it's happening, and maybe it's several years later, but I'll say very, very rarely does it turn out exactly how you thought that it would in your brain. In your mind, you're thinking, okay, if this happens, then this will happen, and everything will be great. But then that happens by the grace of the Lord, and it doesn't move to that point where you wanted it to happen, and then you're dumbstruck because, oh my gosh, how did that happen? And then we realize that ultimately Krishna's in control. We can't deny the fact that Krishna's in control, and Krishna has his own plan, and he's not beholden to anyone's plan. He's got full autonomy, his swarat and aptakama. He doesn't need anything or anybody, and he can do anything he wants at any time without anyone's help. So he is fully capable of satisfying everybody's minuscule desires, But then when the desires get out of hand, or the desires go further than anticipated, and this is a perfect example with Banasura. He certainly, this is more than he bargained for. He wanted a good fight, but he didn't think he was going to lose all of his arms in the fight, which is a big source of his pride. So that's what Krishna kindly does for us, especially those who are trying our best to serve him and to stay in it to win it. We're trying to, do the right thing day by day. We're trying to surrender day by day. We're trying to be surrendered servants of the Lord. And sometimes, in the course of our duties to try to serve, we'll be smashed. That's inevitable. That corrections are inevitable. It's inevitable because, we all still have a false ego. We're all still, attempting to correct those things about ourselves. And Krishna kindly, when those things happen to us, that's Krishna's kindness upon us. And to even be able to realize that is even more of a kindness, right? Because a lot of times people, who don't we know? How many people do we know that has the victim mentality? Victim. Oh, I can't believe this is happening to me. Oh my gosh, why did this happen? I do everything right. I'm not, I thought that this was going to work out this time. I thought that this would be the perfect way. I did everything I was supposed to do, but it didn't happen. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So what we do wrong is we think we're in control. That's what we're doing wrong. We think we're in control of everything. We think we can manipulate everything just as we would like. But that literally is such a faulty mentality, and it's somewhat demonic. I was speaking with a senior devotee the other day. Oh, maybe it was Tramila. And, we were talking about the concept of that. I mean, I know I have, and he has, we were talking. I want it all, and I want it now. That's how we think. We want it all, and we want it now. And as devotees, even, the more we get into what we think is our devotional service, that we're on top of the world, we're doing all the right things. Hari Parshad Prabhu was saying that the other day. We're doing our 16 and 4. 16 and 4. All we have to do is our 16 and 4, and we'll go back to Godhead. But there's a lot more to it than that, because we're not able to be in the association of Krishna with a faulty mentality. And Maya Devi, the Acharyas here are talking about that potency, Maya Devi, to cover, Maya Devi will ensure that if we even have the slightest faulty kind of mentality, whether it's some self-interest or some kind of, something that's feeding our anartas, actually, something that feeds our lust, anger, greed, envy, something that's feeding that. What happens is Krishna, even as devotees, he'll find the most kind of clandestine way to get into that thought process in the brain to smash it. And what can we do? We have to tolerate. We have to tolerate. We have to chant Hare Krishna, and we have to remember that we're not pure devotees. Got a long way from that. And, we just have to, once we get knocked off the horse, we got to pick ourselves up and to brush ourselves off and climb back on the horse and keep trying, keep riding, try again. And it's interesting because when those things happen, it's just like riding a horse and being thrown off, You get back on, and for a little while you're just kind of trotting, you feel like you got to get your confidence again about, yourself and your self-esteem and the fact that you were smashed and corrected, and okay, now what was that correction, and you to be introspective for a while. So you're just sort of trotting, and maybe you might even, we might veer off a little bit from the path and do some nonsense, minimal. But then, you get back on, and then you start picking up speed, and then the horse starts going into a gallop again. And then that's when that mentality of, I'm in control of the situation, and that creeps in. And the second it creeps in, Krishna smashes it again, It's medicine. It's for our own benefit. It's such a blessing that we have that mechanism to be able to purify ourselves, and absorption, obviously, in the holy name is our base level. That's our foundation that we constantly need to, as many times as we get knocked back down, that's always the foundation that we can fall on. That's the soft ground. It's like a pillow. The holy name is like a pillow, instead of falling to the ground and being really, really smashed, like we see with so many people in the world. We hear about that quite a lot in news and politics and things. As devotees, we have the benefit. We have that soft landing where we can then just pick up our japa and then try to absorb more into the holy name. So then that's when Krishna actually will kind of put forth those little glimmers of light in our brain, those little realizations to help us to recognize, if we're really in tune with that practice, and we can chant really absorbedly, Krishna actually will allow us to look in the mirror, and he'll, we can see those things. We can actually see those things, and we can try to begin to understand where they spring up from, where they come from. They just kind of pop in. If you're a little bit complacent, and we think we're doing, I'm doing okay, something will pop in. Something kind of unexpected but familiar. That goes back to, the story we hear all the time about Jad Bharat. He went to the forest to meditate. He was at not at Prema, but he was at Nishta Bhava. He was in Bhava, and that's quite high, that level. It's not Prema, but he was in Bhava, and he was, still not ready. Maya puts those mechanisms in to make sure that we're 100% ready. A long time ago, I heard somebody talk about how Maya Devi, she's kind of like a gatekeeper to Krishna's pastimes. She's sort of like the first line. And if you're trying to get in, we're all trying to get in. We want in, right? That's why we're in this bhakti process. We want in. But Maya is there for checks and balances. She's there to check you if you're not ready, if you're not pure, if you're not able to, one, be free from these things, but two, to recognize that you have these things and that you need to eradicate these things, because all these things are extremely deep-rooted. This is from time immemorial, Some of us are practicing. This is our first time around, second, third time around maybe in Bhakti Yoga. After millions and billions of lifetimes, that's like really trying to turn the Titanic around. It feels impossible sometimes, But being vulnerable like that and understanding our position, and not being prideful about our position, and being open to correction, being open to understanding, and being open to trying to, kind of dig in, that introspection. There's a lot of times, when I speak with people, people very rarely are introspective. They're not really, they don't want to hear about themselves. They don't want to be called out for those things, which they know that there's, I know what my weaknesses, faults. I know what my main couple of anartas are. It's almost like, we have them all, but, they're kind of in a mix, and some of them are to a lesser degree. And it's, obviously some are more based on our psychophysical nature, based on our body type, based on our karma. So there's all these things that we, like Banasura. Banasura actually, it's very sort of, one, it was Vishnu's son, or Krishna's son, he saw it as Vishnu, but it was Krishna's son that, he should have been pleased but he just couldn't, but he still was trying to defend his daughter's valor, her chastity. He had good qualities, everybody's a mix, some people have good qualities, but there's also bad. And as devotees, as we're chanting, trying to purify, trying to minimize the bad, we're trying to root it out, we're trying to get it at the root, we're trying to dig it out with this japa, and with this practice, and with our the deity worship, and so many things, giving Krishna to others, all those things, try to root that out, and get more toward the good, head toward the good. So there's a lot of themes in this this chapter, and now we'll hear more from Lord Shiva's prayers, but pride and pridelessness, and certainly compassion, and just the openness to be able to correct oneself, for us personally, I feel like is, that's always a theme in the Bhagavatam. Somebody gets smashed because of something, and then they have to, repent. There's always the repentance. Yes, Prabhu, I know you want to say something.
When you mentioned Hari Parshad, talking about 16 and 4, well, that comes to the point of like a formula, and it's not really any different than the Christians saying just accept Jesus, because it means it's a mechanical thing, or it's not. It's trying to capture Krishna through some kind of mechanism, but really bhakti is not a mechanism, but bhakti is natural love. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. This sort of, without the priti, there's There's nothing. Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about, I'm going to start with the last one, which is the most, I think is most important, which is the holy name. When everything is being taken away from us, at the time of death or under any circumstances, and we have no access to books or to devotees or anything, the holy name is there. So that means that the holy name is the one thing that really, really helps transform our lives. And of course, our lives are being transformed simply by our sincerity, because we don't do anything. We try our best, and Krishna rewards us. That's one thing. Another thing is that Maya, like you're discussing, everything, she's acting in our behalf, on our behalf, to provide certain situations to purify our consciousness. And Krishna, also when you were talking about Krishna with Shiva, how it is so obvious that Krishna is supreme. And if people read about the pastimes and the interactions between Krishna and Shiva, they will become totally convinced who is the supreme and who is the subordinate. That's another point.
Yeah.
And Krishna over everything and everybody else. It's just number one. Krishna's number one.
Yeah, Krishna.
Thank you for a very nice class.
Jai Shri Radha Goloka Nanda ki jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindanalayataksam Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Nandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam.
Yasomati Nandana Braja Param
Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Parana Dana Madana Manohara Gopi Parana Dana Madana Manohara Gopi Parana Dana Madana Manohara Gopi Parana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Kaliya Damana Vidana Kaliya Damana Vidana Kaliya Damana Vidana Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa Amala Harinama Miya Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa Amala Miya Vilasa Vipinan Purandara Navina Nagara Vora Vamsivadana Subhasa Vinam Purandara Nagara Vora Vamsivadana Subhasa Vipinam Purandara Navina Nagara Vora Vamsivadana Subhasa Rajajana Palana Surakula Nashana Rajajana Palana Surakula Nashana Rajajana Palana Surakula Nashana Nanda Godana Rakowala Nanda Godana Rakowala Nanda Godana Rakowala Nanda Godana Rakowala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Nita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Sundarananda Gopala Sundarananda Gopala Yamuna Tattara Gopi Vasanahara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Yamuna Tattara Vipasanahara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Yamuna Tattara Gopi Vasanahara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Yamuna Tattara Vipasanahara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natapara Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natapara Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natapara Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natapara Bhakati Vinoda Shraya Bhakati Vinoda Shraya Bhakati Vinoda Shraya Bhakati Vinoda Shraya Yasomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yasomati Nandana Varanagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yasomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yasomati Nandana Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa. Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa. Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa. Amala Miya Vilasa. Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara. Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara. Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Nattabara. Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Nattabara. Bhakati Vinoda Shraya. Bhakati Vinoda Shraya. Bhakati Vinoda Shraya. Bhakati Vinoda Shraya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radhe. Jaya Radha Kananda, Radha Golokananda, Radhe. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radhe. Jaya Radha Kananda Radha Golokananda Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai, Jai 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 Shri Radhe Sham. Lord Krishna is beloved son of Yashoda, transcendental lover in the land of Braj, the delight of Gokula, known by the nickname Kana, the wealth of the lives of the gopis, the attractor of Cupid and punisher of the serpent Kaliya. These holy names of Krishna are nectarian pastimes. Lord of the 12 forests of Braj, ever youthful, the best of lovers, player of the flute, an excellent dresser, protector of the inhabitants of Braj, destroyer of the demoniac dynasties, keeper and tender of Nanda's cows, giver of pleasure to cows, land, and spiritual senses, husband of the goddess of fortune, butter thief, and beautiful little cowherd boy of Nanda Maharaj, wanderer of the universe, thief of the garments of the gopis, enjoyer of the mellows of the rasa dance, very merciful, lover and beloved of Shri Radha, the dancer of Vrindavan, and the only shelter of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Chaitodarpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudan Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita niyamita smaranena kala etadrishita bakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva midrishami hajjani nanuraga trinadapi sunichena tarorapi suhishuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sarahari Nadanam najanam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani ishvare bhavatad bhakti ahoitaki twai nainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishameva vambuda badam pankaja stita duli sadrishim vachintaya nayanam galashu daraya Vadanam Gadgadurudaya Kira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishyavapadamritam Anastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatata vidadatulam pato mat prananatastu sa eva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, the repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for it. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? I've been feeling your separation, and I'm feeling all the years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. No one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shesha ki jai. I'd like to thank Radharangani Mataji for addressing the deity so beautifully. It's every pujari has their own mood, and this is so sweet. It's really Braj. Braj, yeah, it's really Krishna and Radha are just enjoying in Vrindavan and the pastimes in the forests. It's really beautiful.